That is called Purveyors of Awe, Elements for Curating a Life of Spiritual Depth. Oh, so my friends, this a little bit of background on this. I have been researching elements for curating a life of spiritual depth for a very long time. For years, actually, I've been teaching it in seminary courses, especially as it relates to how do we as the church reach out as spiritual leaders to a wider community, some of whom will never walk in the doors of our church. And so I was trying to research and look for elements that weren't necessarily churchy words or theological terms, but had a lot of spiritual depth and connected to our Christian story as well. And so this is a dream come true here to actually do a series based on this research that I've been doing. And this is why, and I'll tell you a little bit about this in just a moment. This is why I created a much, um, ooh, hit. It's not going to show you because of this. I'll figure out how to show you that. Well, you'll see the cover in a slide in a moment. But it's an actual book. It's an actual study guide, a guided study and journal that I created, much more substantial than our study guides that we usually do for series because it is based on the research that I've been doing. So, Purveyors of Awe. Let's take a look at the 1 minute trailer so you can get a taste, a sense of it, and then we'll dive in. So that was the question I asked myself this year. And what is the antidote for anxiety, for an age of anxiety? Because I think that is one of the major factors in the decision of what do we do this year for Lent. And so what the research uh, showed me that I did was that these elements under the umbrella of awe, which beauty, wonder, curiosity, meaning, delight, connection, self-giving. I don't know if I said them all, but those are, yeah, I think I got them all. That these actually have, when we do practices of these things, we actually are addressing well-being. So it could be elements for curating a life of well-being. And I think at this moment, that is something that is deeply, deeply important. And that is tending to the well-being of ourselves, of our communities, and of the greater community. Because without well-being, we don't have the energy, we don't have the wherewithal to make a difference in the places and with the things that we really, really need to make a difference in right now. And that is advocacy of the most vulnerable, caring deeply. So it really is about well-being. It is spiritual depth, but I equate that to well-being. So let's take a look here. Our anchor image is the camera lens, which is on the logo, the camera, because we're looking through the lens of awe to see how we can deepen our spiritual well-being. And so what you might do is on our Pinterest page, we have all kinds of examples of displaying vintage cameras. So you might start right now asking your parishioners who has vintage cameras that you would be okay with loaning us on the Sunday mornings of Lent so that we could have this display that reminds us that we're looking through the lens of awe at elements for curating a life of spiritual depth and well-being. So the camera lens is a big metaphor, but it's also something we can do together as small groups. And so we have put resources about photography as a spiritual practice. And so many have easy access to cameras, right? Whether that's our phones or whether we actually have actual cameras. But looking through the lens, capturing moments that fill our spirits, that is the essence of being purveyors of awe, and encouraging others to do so. So the camera lens is a big anchor image, but also by association, then photos are also things that you can do to enhance this idea. And that is beautiful photos, photos filled with wonder, meaningful photos, curiosity photos. All of these elements can be captured in photos. And we have lots of, on our Pinterest page, we have lots of pictures of things like this, strands of clipped photos. It kind of gives the essence of the old dark room. It's not old. Some people still do that, but it kind of has that essence of those pictures hanging from things in the dark room, processing and coming to life and revealing to us this beauty. And that's really at the heart of this series as well. Now, colors on, I chose for the logo, I chose the sunset or sunrise, could be either one, colors, because it is that moment of the dawning or that waning light where we often get the most spectacular moments of, right? And so I chose those colors specifically. And so I went to the fabric store and saw, oh, what if I pull a little bit of fabric from each one of these colors and create some beautiful table setting with that? Um, the other thing is that each one of these elements are going to be big. That's what each Sunday is called. And so these vinyl lettering, I went to a women's conference this weekend, and on the walls, they had these temporary vinyl letters. So cool. And so little sayings about each one of these, this would be for the Curiosity Week, follow your curiosity. So lots of different ways to create interest visually for this series. Okay, so of course, based on my research around awe and all of these elements and the substantial guided study and journal, that's the cover of it. And I'll tell you how you can access that very many different ways, including digital download, but also first time we have created, you can purchase this study in book form. All right, so as usual, scripts with everything you need, you adapt for your context. You can see more about this at worshipdesignstudio.com/awe if you're not a subscriber and don't have access to go into it right away. Remembering that as subscribers, you have access to all the materials all the time, everything. So, okay, let's look at what's in it. The overview, we usually do. It's a great thing for your whole team to read at the beginning. It just orients everybody to what it's about, what it is, what's inside of it, what the order of worship is, and the different elements. So that's always a great first step. And we always put the overview also on those landing pages. So as you're looking at what series you want to do, you can look at that and sort of see what's in there. The scriptures and synopses, the worship scripts. I'll talk more about those in just a moment. Children's time scripts, the communion script as usual. You can adapt it if you have weekly communion. You can adapt it for each one of the elements as you want. The sermon fodder, as we always do. Those of you who are new to Worship Design Studio, we do not write your sermons for you because that is a very personal act and it's very contextually based. You are the shepherd of this community and you're going to speak from you, take all the information, and we give you lots of information to help you, and then you create it in the sermonic form. visual and media ideas. We have lots of them. The music documents and files I'm going to show you. We have arrangements of a couple of things that are unique for this series. The logo and trailer we give you, and then you can put your church's logo and information on those. And then, of course, small group suggestions. Lots there besides the guided study. So I'm going to give you a look at all of that. But first, I want to play this threshold opening sequence for Lent 1 so that you can get an idea of the musical opening, the feel of it. And I did Lent 1 because Lent 1, as I usually do, has a little more substantial speaking from the leader up front to orient people to what the theme is and why is it that we're doing this. And so I'm just going to give you this taste of that. Along the way, you'll see that we weave 2 songs in the threshold that talks about opening our eyes to see with awe. And so very familiar. One is Silently Now I Wait for Thee, and the other is Open the Eyes of My Heart. And so Chuck Bell has written an arrangement that has a lot of underscoring in it, you'll see. And it has a beautiful sense of these familiar tunes, but with some beautiful arranging that helps it to feel fresh. So as we go through this, sing when it's time to sing that for yourself as well. So let's just take a look. Here we go. Professor of Jewish mysticism and beloved author, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, said this: "Our goal should be to live life in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed." My eyes that I may see glimpses of truth thou hast for me. Place in my hands the wonderful key that shall unclasp and set me free. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. And my eyes illuminate Spirit. This Lent, we are invited to consider that one of the most important gifts we can give is to be purveyors of awe. A purveyor is someone who spreads or promotes a particular idea or who deals in a particular good. Our quest in this season is to promote a state of awe about the lives we've been given and revel in the sheer miracles of life that surround us. This is a spiritual journey in the tradition of biblical poets and of mystics. In our modern day, researchers who study well-being know that when we cultivate elements that deepen our awe of life, our appreciation for others, our dedication to the good, we live longer, more purposeful, and more joyful lives. In a time when we are exposed to the weight of the world by the messages around us, we will spend time on a journey of being exposed to the wonder of the world. Open the eyes of my Lord, open the eyes of my heart, I want to see you, I want to see you. The wide eye of wonder creates optimal conditions for awe. When we open our senses to the extraordinariness of the everyday ordinary, we have begun the journey to a deeper existence than what resides at surface level. Wonder can be an antidote to anxiety and depression, pulling us instead toward the awe-filled knowledge that there is more than meets the eye. There are solutions in the midst of problems, possibilities where we sense only dead ends. Let us rise in body and/or spirit and pray. Awe-inspiring God, we come together this day because we need to be reminded to see through the lens of wonder. Too often we relegate what is always amazing to what is ever familiar, forgetting that there are mysteries and miracles in the ordinariness of our lives. Open us to perceive anew. Inspire us to receive our surroundings with awe. Forgive us when we focus only on what's wrong rather than allowing the right and good to show us the way forward. Be with us on this journey as we seek again to marvel at your works. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. Be still and know that God is God. Wonders never cease. God forgives us. Jesus embraces us. The Spirit enlivens us. We are whole. With awe, we accept this belovedness, and all God's people say, Amen. Amen. So, friends, that is really the essence of the whole thing. That we must focus on what's right with this world, even as we focus on what's wrong. And I know that it's a dance right now. It is a dance for all of us to figure out how to do both. And I think right now it's harder to focus on what's right. And so this series is an invitation to do that, not as a denial of what we need to do, but as a way of filling our spirits and our well-being. So Mark Hayes, another thread song that we have. Mark Hayes, dear friend of mine, and many of you know him as incredibly prolific composer, arranger. He lives here in Kansas City near me. And so I called him up and I said, Mark, you have this amazing anthem that's called You Are a Great and Awesome God. Can you just do a little arrangement of that so we could use it as a prayer response, a little bit slower, and in just this one portion of it? And this is a sung prayer response. I also have it as the Sanctus in the communion prayer. This is what that sounds like.
You are a great and awesome God. Your wonders we proclaim. You are our rock, our strength, our shield, from age to age the same. You forgive us all our sins. You transform us with your love. With joyful, grateful hearts we sing. You are a great and awesome God.
So that is what I call a thread song. So every prayer time begins with that introduction into prayer. And again, it's based on a very familiar tune, and so your folks will pick it up right away. So let's take a quick look at the actual materials in the website that you will access. Let me get here. Okay. All right. So scriptures and synopses overview, that is your first stop, right? I will post this Get Ready webinar right here so that you can refer to that, and any of your team members can refer to that. This is where you download the entire series. So that is our file sharing space. You don't have to have an account or anything, but you just go there and then you hit that download button and it downloads everything. So that's one way to download in one fell swoop. Of course, you can download everything piece by piece. in each of these as well. Again, we have the free social media images done by wonderful Jennifer Yoakum, and she has created beautiful daily posts that you can use in social media related to the series. And then again, we will have people who are going to share different resources that they create that's different from ours or in addition to ours, and we will be uploading those there. So want to invite you to do that and to check that out. Now, each one of our scripts is in here, and for those of you who are new to Worship Design Studio, we have a PDF version that just will open up on your computer so you can just look at it there. That's a great way to just have a look at a glance look. You can also download that in the Word document form so that you can then adapt it. Remember, we like for you to adapt to your context. So there may be things in there that you decide to use or change. Make those words that I write feel right for you coming out of your mouth. We want you to adapt in whatever way. So each one of the scripts for each one of the services has both of those. Now, Lent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me just quickly show you. Let's look at Lent 1. And you saw that whole threshold moment, those very familiar tunes. If your pianist doesn't want to do or can't do Chuck's arrangement, no worries. Just use those, use the music from the hymnals of those songs. And if your musician is uncomfortable underscoring, just sing it when it comes up, right? So lots of ways to adapt. So opening hymns and songs, we make suggestions, of course, for a classical and modern or traditional and modern choices. What you do is you look at what we've chosen. If it feels like there is an unbalanced number of new songs and you need to do some more familiar songs, although I will tell you that we have chosen a lot of familiar songs for this series. You change as you need to, but we make suggestions for every service so that you have a starting place, right? I'm going to show you the children's scripts in just a moment. We have a contemporary reading in this series, so it will be a researcher about the topic. This one is wonder. And then we have the ancient reading. And this is usually a biblical poet, so a biblical Hebrew poet. So most of them are from the Psalms or Proverbs. I'm going to show you in the sermon fodder how we treat the inclusion of Jesus in this. So stay tuned. But that does happen in the sermon rather than in the scripture readings in our scripts. Now you can add a gospel reading if you want to, but I'll show you why in a moment. Then we have In Awe of Music, which is the anthem or the band song, and we always give you choices there, an anthem that we think would work well. Of course, look in your own repertoire and you will find things perhaps in your own repertoire that go with it. But always listen, they all have links to go listen to it and see what it is. And then if you need to change it, then sort of think along the same theological lines to go with the service. In Awe of the Word is what I'm calling the sermon in this, and I'll show you the fodder in just a moment. Approaching an Awesome God is those prayers. And so we have we've created for you what we call Visio Divina. And this is a time of showing photos. It's a video, it's a 1-minute video that we've put together that you can download and you can use ours, or you can make your own. So these are just photos of, for instance, in this service, it's all natural beauty, right? So wonder. In the Ash Wednesday service, we talk about that precious beauty between birth and death, because we're talking about from dust we came, and to dust we shall return. And so that Visio Divina is a minute full of beautiful faces of all ages, of all varieties. And so we have made these videos for you, but you can also see that as a project if you have youth, perhaps, that want to put together a video like that. But that's what starts the prayers, is this Visio Divina. We have some intercessory prayer, prayers of thanksgiving and care, continued prayers about specific entities of nature in your area. So we have a different focus on each one of these weeks. And then into silence, some silent prayer, For all these intentions, hear our prayer, awesome God, and let us pray the prayer Jesus taught us. So we've just given you kind of a structure in which to put all of your community prayers. And as usual, adapt as needed. If it's too different from what you do and you think it would be too much of a change, then you adapt and you do prayers the way that you usually do prayers, and maybe just with then the sung prayer response, right, from Mark Hayes that you heard. On the Sundays you have communion, you would put that in. We have offering, responding with awe, offering, doxology. I have written a special doxology to the tune Old 100th that ends our awe is yours, the three in one. Closing song, you can see how familiar these are, so probably those will work for your congregation, I'm thinking. Um, and then the benediction is always sort of a remembering of the mystic that we quoted in the beginning. And so they kind of bookend. So the mystic for this service was Rabbi Heschel. And so we familiarize ourselves with that we heard at the beginning, and then we invite people to be a purveyor of awe. Um, and so that is a little bit different every week based on the word for the week, but a lot of it is a familiar cadence, so you'll get used to that. All right, so that is an example of one of the scripts. Those of you who have used my services before know that we don't reinvent the wheel every week. We use the same structure and then change the various words and things to go with that week. Now, let me give you an update, friends. As of today, which is February 11th, I am still in production for my Holy Week service because I am creating a very special kind of thing that will incorporate all of these elements alongside the story of Holy Week. So connecting those elements to the story of Holy Week in an experience that you can create that could either be a service or it could be a come and go walk through kind of experience that you will have a fun time creating. Get the help of your youth to help and many people to help you create different places in the church, and it'll be a walk through experience with some lighting, perhaps some candles, some, that kind of thing, ending up in the sanctuary. So I want it to be an awe-filled experience. So we're not just talking about awe, we're actually practicing and having an awe-filled experience through this. And so that will be ready for you before Lent begins for sure, sometime in the next couple of weeks, because I'm starting production on the Easter season series as well. You get it. It's that time of year, right? But know that this is coming soon. So that Holy Week and some ideas for Easter Sunday. Now, the reason why I do ideas for Easter Sunday is because you have a choice. You can end the series on Easter Sunday, or you can begin the Easter season series on Easter Sunday. And the Easter season series that I'm creating right now, called The Cup of Freedom, starts on Easter Sunday. So we will give you some ideas, but so many churches have beloved traditions for Easter morning that you should do those by all means, and then insert ideas from the series into your beloved traditions. And so we'll give you some ideas, but know that that's also coming. Communion liturgy, you saw that, and I use a very ecumenical standard, and you adapt as you need to for your denominational sensibilities. But it does incorporate that song from Mark Hayes as well as the Sanctus. All right, let's look at children's time. So this idea buckets came from my experience during lockdown and pandemic was that my bucket of delight was running out. I need to fill up my bucket. And so we've got buckets for every week and different things that we will be filling our buckets with, our bucket of meaning, curiosity, delight, connection, self-giving. And we made take home worksheets that kids can take home, or you can use that in your Christian education on Sunday morning. Now, the theme song for the children's time as they come up and go back is What a wonderful world. Ah, I love it. So you want your pianist to sort of play that as they come up. And we've given you, you can either get the choral arrangement by Mark Hayes and pull out of that, or you can get the sheet music there. Um, and then there's lots of things here. It will be self-evident. There'll be some emotions that you can make, and the prayer poem. I create a prayer poem, so it's a repeat after me poem that happens every week. Awesome God, we're here to say, awesome God, we're here to say, thank you for the world today. Thank you for the world today. What a gift in which to play. What a gift in which to play. Full of wonders on display. Full of wonders on display. All together now we say, Amen. So it is really fun. And as always, this is fully scripted. And so put it in your own words, tweak it as you need to. But the full meal deal is right there. Now, I excerpt little pieces from What a Wonderful World into the midst of each one. And they're just little excerpts because each little excerpt has to do with the word that we're on for the week. And so you could speak that, or you could sing it a cappella. And the reason I say a cappella, I mean, if you have a pianist that can just play that excerpt, that's fine. But some of it is right out of the middle. So sometimes it might just be easier to start, I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world, right? And then you would go on. And I guarantee you that people in the congregation, if you prompt them, will sing it with you, right? If you put those up on the screen, if you're using a screen. So there's buckets for every week. And there'll be different activities with every week, and you'll have a great time doing that. So awesome, awesome, awesome. That word awesome is going to pop up quite a bit. All right, sermon fodder, my friends. So the book, the little guided study that I wrote, will also give you lots of sermon fodder because that's where I dip into some of the research about each one of these things. I've woven that with stories from my own life, journal pages, journal prompts, that kind of thing. I really had a wonderful time putting it together. It is likely the beginning of a larger work. So you're in on the first bit of it, but I'm very glad to have this out into the world. So read through that document. I have given you in each one a link to this guy, Jason Silva, who used to be the host of National Geographic's Brain Games. He has a YouTube channel called Shots of Awe. He is absolutely off the charts, energetic. He may not be your cup of tea, but he'll get you thinking. And he's a philosopher. He's not a Christian, he's a philosopher, but it really helped me sort of get kind of excited about the benefits of each one of these things. The major book, and I would highly recommend that you read this in preparation for the series. Dacher Keltner is the grandfather of theories, cognitive science theories about awe. And it's a wonderful, wonderful book. So I highly recommend that you go ahead, especially preachers, you go ahead, get that book, read through it. It will totally saturate you in all of the aspects of awe. And I show how those are connected to each one of these elements in my guided study. Okay, so preaching Jesus in awe. So the reason why I have not put gospel readings into the service is that when we're thinking about Jesus and all of these elements, we're looking more at what he did with his life as well as what he said. So, how did he practice awe? How did he practice wonder? And then in each one of the weeks in the sermon fodder, we have Ben, our wonderful WDS customer service person, who's also a preacher, who also writes some of our sermon fodder, has talked about some of the exegesis around the Hebrew poets. And then I have a section on each one of these about how Jesus relates to this and how in his life and ministry he related to this. And then what I encourage you to do, preachers, is how does this show up for you in your understanding of Jesus? And tell that story in your sermon. So like in Wonder, I think I myself talk about how he said, consider the lilies of the field. Well, obviously, he did some considering of of nature, of the awe-filled creation, right? And so that's an example of saying, Jesus himself marveled at creation in the way that he used these metaphors of nature, of different things. So I really want you to think, preacher, about how your relationship with Jesus and who Jesus was comes into play with all of these different elements. Okay, so that's the sermon fodder. Let's move on. Visual and media arts ideas, friends. Oh my goodness. I think you'll have a lot of fun putting things together. It'll be very different for each one of you. It's not like a ladder, like a thing that that we give you a picture of, but find different ways to display vintage cameras if you have people that have vintage cameras, or even just one is fine. Um, we have lots of different ideas about how to incorporate that anchor image, but also the idea of the photos and hanging. You might have those on the sidewalls and add to those every week and invite people to bring photos and add to those. Could be very interactive, wonderful thing. A photo booth might be fun to create, talking about the awesomeness of who we are as children of God. Polaroid cameras. There's just a lot of different ideas here. Table fabric, etc. We have some instructions for the time with children, those worksheet handouts, all of that. And then again, a photography group. Think about that. Creating a photography group. That's a wonderful way to have a spiritual practice related um, to that anchor image. Okay, so small group study suggestions. Friends, of course, I would love for you to use this guided journal for your small groups. And I will tell you how you can, the different versions of that you can use. But while we're here in this document, I just want to say that we also have links to some of the main works that I um, reference in that guided study. So if you have groups that like to dive deep into one thing, you might have a book study based on one of these books and it's just the material is just so much. And some of the best ones I have listed here. So if you have groups that really want to dive deep, we also have for preteens, teens, and young adults that have to do with awe and wonder and delight and lots of things. There's children's books that are perfect for this theme. New title that's coming soon. It won't come out in time for Lent. It's coming out in May. But this is a woman who has written a book for parents and teachers, How the Science of Wonder Helps Our Kids Thrive. And it's called Raising Awe Seekers. So this will be a wonderful follow-up to this series for your parents and teachers. More resources around photography groups. So lots of different ideas here. Okay. Oh, we're almost there. Thanks for hanging in, friends. So here, the guided study and short form pages. Let me show you what that is. So this is the guided study, the full version in digital PDF form. You could literally send your folks who are going to study it, whether independently, individually, or with small groups, you can literally send them the URL, right? And they can open it up and read it on their computer. That's one way you can get this to them. All right, so here, let me just make it a little, there we go. All right, so that's there, and that's available to you. Anybody who has purchased the series, subscribers, you have access to it in that form. Now, we also have a short form journal that is a PDF that is shorter because the longer one is 80 some pages, and you might not want to make booklets of 80 some pages on your own. So we have also done a short form that you could do. You could either print out the whole thing, make a booklet, or you could just print out 2 front and back pages every week and give those as handouts to people, right? Because each one has my thoughts on Jesus and beauty. And the reason I did this, friends, is because the larger work that I did is going to serve a purpose beyond this series, and it's an interfaith purpose. So I did not include my thoughts on Jesus and beauty in the main work. It's Hebrew poets, it is researchers, it's mystics that I include there. But you also have what I call the Jesus pages. Anecdotally, that's not called that in the series, but Jesus and beauty. And so again, my thoughts about how Jesus related to beauty, some scripture, journal pages for people to journal with a link to the pages in the larger guided study that people could go. So you could print this out, but they could also go to that digital version and read the whole chapter if they wanted to. The mystic quote, and then an awe practice. So this is beauty. So 9 beautiful things. This is what you would give to people on Ash Wednesday or on Lent 1. And that is to set about 15 minutes before going to bed to think about 9 beautiful things that happened during the day, 3 of each in 3 different categories. So that's an awe practice. And this is from a researcher who actually did the work to research folks who did this and found that their well-being went up significantly if they spent time doing this every day. And so that is that connection between well-being and these practices of awe. So that's what those short form are, so that you can reproduce those. We also have that in a word form. Uh, um, yes, word form. There it is, so that you can put whatever you want to in it and um, adapt that if you want to. Put your logo on it, whatever. The long form, the guided study, is not available in our usual word form because that is actually a written work by me. And so, because it's a longer form, we're not going to allow you to adapt that, of course, because it's just a larger work. So that's a little bit different this time than some of our other ones. So A Year of Awe is a document that invites you to consider, as a result of this series, some monthly activities that your church could do and invite the greater community to these practices of awe as a community. So I have given you lots of examples of what's happening around this around the world. This, and I'm not going to go through all of these, you can read for yourself, but just to give you a couple of examples, the Offline Club, this is started in the Netherlands. And so it is a regular time for, and it's lots of young people, lots of millennials do this. They check their phones at the door, they come in, and for a few hours, they get to have some offline time, right? Connecting, and they curate it so there's some individual time, some community time. There's game playing, there's journaling, there's arts and crafts, there's lots of different things. But it's just a way to create a community offline. A candlelight music event. Listening to music in candlelight, awe-inspiring. And we can do this, churches. We can do it. So group singing events where people get to sing together. That is one of the, you'll read in my book, that is one of the most incredible ways to create what's called collective effervescence, which has huge benefits for our well-being, for our connectedness to others. Literally happening biologically inside of us has benefits. And so just really you will enjoy looking at these different examples of how that happens and imagining if you could do that yourself. A percussion circle, this is also a wonderful way of feeling synced up with others. A lot of these things are an antidote to loneliness, and really important that we do this. So different trips, different ways to create community. And so that is there for you. And I hope you become purveyors of awe. That is the point. Purveyors of awe for your community. So of course the trailer and the logo. So friends, one last thing, and that is I want to leave you with just um, a little bit more about the book. It is right now available to purchase on Amazon, although that is not the final version. It's a draft version that we were using to make sure it was going to work. We have a final version that will be available for you, I would say early next week. Don't buy multiple copies for your study groups until early next week. You'll get them in plenty of time, but early next week check again and it should be ready to purchase, and you can get actual physical books. Oh, I don't know. I have this background and so it's not. Let's see. There we go. There it is. We have the actual physical book. Now, we're also doing that through Barnes and Noble. We're having a little bit of an issue with Barnes and Noble, just getting it uploaded, but hopefully by early next week that will also be there because I know some of you are choosing not to use Amazon at this moment. So either use the digital download, the link for people to study online on their devices, and or buy this copy so that they have that in their hands. And those are available at $10 each, so it should be easy to just have people pitch in for their copies and maybe just do a bulk order for your folks. So finally, and I'll take some questions just after this. Friends, the neurobiology of empathy is tied to awe. And part of the research that I'm talking about, I'm a neuroscience geek. My PhD was based in it. In the neurobiology of ritual and what's happening in our bodies during ritual. And so the benefits of these awe practices, wonder, beauty, meaning, connection, delight, curiosity, these have real implications for our physical bodies, for the well-being, our social, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual well-being. And I think all of those things actually, physical, social, emotional, mental, equal spiritual well-being. And so that's why I am very tuned in to what we are learning about the benefits of all of these things. And I think that our churches are called to help with the well-being of our greater communities, whether they come to our church or not. And with the increasing numbers of people who don't come to our church, if we can figure out how to reach out and help with the well-being, of course, physical well-being and all the things that I know you already do, clothing, shelter, food, but also the spiritual well-being. So the neurobiology of empathy is tied to awe. We all have the capacity for that, but we have to stay tuned in order to turn on that empathetic kinds of processes in our brains. And if there's anything we need more of right now, it's empathy. In 1935, this is the last two paragraphs from my guided study. And it's the core of what I believe about the connection to our call as Christians. In 1935, Albert Einstein said, "The fairest thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science. He who knows it not and can no longer wonder, no longer feel amazement, is as good as dead, a snuffed out candle. Death can happen in many ways, including a kind of walking dead state of numbness to the awe that exists, both in extraordinary events and in the everyday, in the ordinary, all around us. There is much today that seeks to deaden our ability to thrive, when basic needs are not only disregarded but destroyed by policies that bolster the already privileged to the demise of the vulnerable, when fear maxes out our nervous systems such that the greatest percentage of doctors' visits are related to mental health. That's a fact. When we are duped into believing that protecting our own is the only way to survive, the freedom to wonder, to delight, and to connect in meaningful ways is harmed. But the cradle that Einstein talked about there, where artists and scientists work, is alive and well, as we have seen. And they are urging us to awaken and to heal through practices of awe that, despite the movement to extinguish our candles, can renew our love for the life we've been given and spur us with the energy for making this world a better place. The elements of curating a life of spiritual depth, beauty, wonder, meaning, curiosity, delight, connection, and self-giving are essential to sustaining our ability to work for the very survival of our species. All who inhabit this planet and the planet itself that we call home. We must become purveyors of awe, practicing for ourselves and encouraging others. We must curate conditions for well-being by adding to our caring repertoire not only the basics of sustenance for the physical bodies of our fellow humans, but also the capacity for awe that keeps our candles lit. So, friends, I pray that you will keep your candles lit, that you will invite others to become alive through these practices of awe in this Lent season. I am so grateful for all you are and all you do. And I hope you will join me in this effort of inviting people into well-being through practices of awe. I think that Jenna finally got back on to internet. I think she had to drive to get there. Jenna, I'm so sorry. I think she had an outage in her area. Oh my gosh. And so she is in some public place now.
That's
Wow.
right.
Might as well, 10th anniversary of fully scripted series, might as well have, technical difficulties because, that's the world we live in. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at any questions. We did answer some questions beforehand about other series, but if there are any that you can see um, about purveyors of all, let's go ahead and entertain those before we say goodbye.
I actually lost my chat history when I rejoined the webinar. So anyone, this is your chance to send us those questions through the chat and we'll get them answered before we have to go. And if you can't think of anything now, but you do later, you can send us an email to Marcia@marciamcphee.com and I will put that in the chat.
That's great. Now, I am seeing in the Q&A, I can see some. So, is the Holy Week experience created for a specific day of Holy Week? Would it work best Good Friday or another day, or does that matter? Does not matter. You will decide that. You will also decide if you want to split it. If you're going to do it as a service in the sanctuary, you could split that up and do the first part of it on Maundy, Thursday, and the second part of it on Good Friday, because it does work itself through the week, right? Connected to these. You can also do it as a come and go through the whole Triduum, right? So the Triduum is Thursday night through Saturday or through Sunday morning, and you could have hours. And so if it's a walkthrough kind of thing, you could simply have hosts who were, hosting the space so people could come through anytime. So you are going to be able to figure that out yourself, what's going to work best for your community. You might do that walkthrough kind of thing in addition to some more traditional services that you might do at your church, like a tenebrae and that kind of thing. So you really are going to get to figure out and curate your own experience of awe. Let's see. Have you given any thought to creating a retreat format for this material? Yes, yes, yes. So yes, so a couple of things. I am creating for myself a day-long retreat that I will offer to as like clergy day apart renewal kinds of things. It doesn't have to be just clergy, but right now that's I'm talking to various conferences who do clergy day apart kinds of things for well-being. And so that is going to become a thing in the next year of awe, the year of awe. But out of that, I will also, and I will tell you that it will follow the book that I have put together pretty closely. Um, and so I will be creating for you all to do that kind of day-long retreat or half-day retreat, whatever you want to do. But yes, that is a great idea. Says, I can see this as a great opportunity to offer something outside of the worship setting and beyond this season for the nuns and duns. Yes, absolutely. And that's what I mean by being a purveyor of awe that reaches out to the wider community. You might not even have it in your church. You might create it somewhere else, right? That's a little less intimidating for those who wouldn't normally feel, would question kind of walking into a church. And also know that we will be, after Lent is over, we will be tweaking this series so that it can be an anytime series. So those of you who don't use it for Lent, you might consider it as summer. I mean, it could be any time during ordinary time. So we will be tweaking that as soon as we get our heads up out of the water for Lent, Holy Week, and Easter season. Um, and then we will be tweaking for any time. All right. Um, okay. Uh, okay. I'm just going to look at the chat really quick. Some great ideas here. Yes. I will tell you the longest table. Somebody posted about the longest table. Our church did that, and the tables went all down the street. I write about it in the book because we're about to do that with our 100th anniversary of our neighborhood block. And so we're going to put tables all down the middle of our block to celebrate all the houses turning 100 years old. It's just so important that we make connections. Um, this is an age where the antidote to that which tries to divide us is to continue to find ways to connect. And this, I think, is one of the most important things. All right. Anything else? Jenny, see anything else?
I did see a note that came through that said, please reach out to the powers that be with the West Virginia conference. Specifically was requested about that 1 day retreat, but we should
Yes.
definitely let folks know when that's available.
Yes. So any of you are hearing this that would like for it to happen, whenever you get the chance to put a bug in somebody's ear on your regional leadership, we're happy to take those requests. So that will be coming soon, that we will be scheduling some of those things. Oh, friends, thank you to all of you who hung out with me this whole time. Thank you for understanding this need to connect both what's happening for Lent on a bigger scale with our Get Ready webinar, and know that we'll be posting the recording really soon. And friends, you know that you can email us at any time if you have further questions. You can post those things on the website. And those of you who are Worship Design Studio subscribers and have done our series before, you know that the website is a great place to talk to each other about ideas that you have. What are you planning? What are you doing? It's talk about connecting. We have to stay connected. It can feel very isolating sometimes. Ministry can, and I know all of you know that. So let's stay connected. Many blessings, friends, and thanks for spending our anniversary 10th year celebration together. Many blessings on your Lent and in all of your endeavors. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.